And so I will hand it over to Aviva for introduction.
Hey, good evening. So I have had the privilege this year of mentoring Avtalya T, who's a 10th grade student at SKA. And from the beginning, Avtalya really impressed me with how much of a self-starter she was and how on top of things she was. I feel like I did very little. I provided a little guidance here, a little nudge there, like a little troubleshooting here, and her project really took off, no pun intended, as you'll see. And she really made like a lot of progress every week. That also impressed me. Like one week, oh, I built the body of my project. The next week, oh, I installed the motors. The next week, oh, I did 3 test flights. So it's really she really did a great job. And even when it was troubleshooting, it was never, oh, I have this problem. It was always, I have this problem and here's what I did already to try to solve it. So it was, there was very, very little for me to do in the end. And Avtalya is also quite a Renaissance woman. She also enjoys playing musical instruments and playing sports. And she makes really cool themed perm costumes with her family. She showed me some pictures and that was really neat. And that really showed me another thing that I really impressed me about Avtalya, which is her relationship with her family and the support she gets from them. I know she has an older sister who helped her with the project, an older sister who's also in the STEM field and helped her with testing, and her mom who helped her when we had a part that wouldn't work and she needed to get a refund for it and exchange it. So it was really a real pleasure and privilege to work with Avtalya this year. And without further ado, here's Avtalya T.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Avtalya T. I'm a 10th grader. I'm in SKA, and I'm lucky because my mentor Aviva is also went to SKA and graduated. Next. So my mentor Aviva is a senior program manager at the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. She graduated from Cooper Union with a bachelor's of mechanical engineering, and since then has worked on various projects that you probably have also used, such as the cashless tolling booth between bridges, tunnels between New York and New Jersey. Currently lives in Fair Lawn, New Jersey with her husband and 3 children. Next. So my project is Ronnie, after Ronnie Zuckerman, who is the first female jet fighter pilot in the Israeli army. And I really look up to her. My project is a remote control airplane. And I chose this because I was interested in how engineers use aerodynamics to create like things that fly, such as like air travel and planes. And I'm also extremely interested in the engineering field, especially aerospace engineering. I learned aerodynamics and the designs and calculations for each factor of an RC plane, such as weight and balance. Current progress. So at the moment, I finished my project and got the plane to fly and turn. So next step, which I hope to do in the future, is longer flights and better control for my airplane. Next. So my magical experience. So I'm very grateful that I was able to learn from a Jewish mother in the STEM fields and having the ability to ask my mentor questions at many different times, like all times. I called her up in stores and trying to buy stuff, and I'm very happy that I was able to build a remote control plane. Lessons learned. So I learned time management skills and prioritizing my time and being flexible. So at first I was going to build both the remote and an airplane, but in the end I realized I was not going to have enough time to do that. So I switched to buying the remote and then building the airplane. So challenges. So the remote. So the first remote I ordered, it wouldn't find the transmitter and receiver. So I looked up videos, it didn't work. I kind of tried to do it at my house, sparks flew everywhere, also didn't work. So then I asked different teachers of mine, such as the STEM teacher here who spent his lunch period and my lunch period trying to figure it out, so it still didn't work. So I went back and had a meeting with my mentor who suggested I buy a new one, and it did. I did, and it worked. So that was great. Okay, next. So my materials. So I used foam core to build the plane. That's my remote. It came with a transmitter and receiver. So this is my LiPo battery, which just helps the plane fly, and my brushless motor. And I later realized I didn't come with a propeller, so I later had to order a propeller. And those are the servos. I also realized later that which I didn't know was the brushless motor. It was a new thing that had a thing that I didn't know that had to connect the battery to the receiver and transmitter. So I bought that later too. Okay, next. So this is my first prototype. So the measurements are on the side. So my first prototype was out of paper, and I went for a very simple design. The fuselage, which is the body of the plane, I did square. And for the wing, I bent it over, kind of like for airfoil, and for aerodynamics, so the wind can pass through it and it can fly. And that's the stabilizer and stabilizer, which has the elevator and the rudder, which control it. Okay, next. This is my second prototype. The only thing I really changed was the fuselage, which is the body of the plane, to make it more aerodynamic so it can fly better. Next. Okay, so this is my third prototype, which is my final prototype. So as you can see, it's made of foam core. I have the servos. And what I did add was I added rubber bands, and I didn't hot glue the wings in place. So to not make the battery die, which didn't end up working in the end, as you'll see. But so I can guess it and take it off. I added rubber bands. Okay, next. So consulting expert. So I consulted Daniel Miller, who he did a lot of things. The thing I found really cool that he did is he interned at NASA and at the American Army. So he gave me a lot of help. I knew very little about aerodynamics when I started this, but he helped teach me how to do the weight. He gave me different calculations and different ways to help make the plane fly. One thing that he did do, which was amazing, was I first was going to make the wings have flaps, which helps me control the plane better. But he told me that as this is my first RC plane I've ever made, I shouldn't use that because it adds weight to it, and that would just make it more confusing for me. Okay, next. So electronics. So this is me controlling the rudder, which turns the plane, the elevator, which makes it go up and down. Okay, and then we go to the front of the plane, which gives it all the power, and this is the propeller, which helps the plane fly a lot, and very strong. Okay, so this is my first flight test. It didn't go very well, as you can see. So I struggled with the propeller, kept falling off, and it wasn't working. And so I figured out how to do that over the first day. For the second flight test, I had struggles with the entire brushless motor, as it got better, but it kept falling off, and it wouldn't stay because it's very heavy. And throughout all my test flights, I had struggled with that little pieces kept falling off of my flight of the plane. So I kept going back home and putting pieces back together. So what I ended up doing was my sister, who's over there, shout out, she gave me the idea to put wood on the brushless motor a little bit to not weigh my plane down. And it worked, as you can see in the next slide. This is my third flight test. It was on Friday, and it flew, and I was able to turn it. But what I didn't realize was this is the battery, and on the remote, it shows how if it's full, if the battery is full, or if it's not full. And so but what I didn't realize was the battery doesn't show the actual this battery. It shows a different part, which the battery is connected to. So I sadly looked at the remote and watched the battery go from full to 0, and I watched the plane fall. But today I did charge the remote, not the remote, the battery, and I hope to go home and do my fourth flight test. Okay, next. Thank you, guys. Any questions?
Who suggested the material that we do? Okay, when you build the plane, and if that was suggested to you by someone else, were you comfortable that those materials would work when they were suggested, or wondered?
Okay, so I didn't know very much about airplanes, so I looked up different things. I watched different videos. My mentor also helped me with this. We looked up different ways to make it, and the final material was to use foam core, because different things would be sturdy or fall apart, and foam core was very strong, and it was durable, even in the wind, and during even if it rained a little bit, it would be fine.
Could you please repeat the question?
Oh yeah, sorry. So he asked if there was, and who helped me figure out what materials I should use, and if I was comfortable using those materials.
Nice, great. I see that Smriti and then Leah, two people have questions on Zoom. I don't know if anybody else has questions in the room, but maybe we can just go with the Zoom people first. Smriti?
Hi, this is so cool, and looking forward to your next flight test too. Congratulations. I was wondering how you even came up with the design for your first prototype. How did you understand, what shapes and different things would work with aerodynamics and things like that?
Okay, so I did ask, I sent an email to Daniel, who was like the expert, and I also looked up different videos and websites. So I did find a specific one that was like I did copy a little bit, but the main one that I used for the first prototype was a video that was just 10 minutes, and it was just simple. It was like how to build a seaplane in the first 10 minutes, and that's what I used for the first one. And then I got more and more complicated as each prototype went on.
Right. Very cool. Thank you.
Leah?
Yeah, going off of what you just said, also, I think it's really cool that you kind of built up to the final prototype by starting out simple. But I guess I was just wondering what your process was like when you encountered failure. So like, okay, the plane wasn't flying and it fell down. What did you do at that point, and how did you figure out how to solve it?
Okay, so good question. So I went to the park. So my first flight test, it was very windy, so I kind of just put the blame on that, but it wasn't. So but what I did was I went back home and just tried to continue. I just glued everything back in place. I was the propeller, I just screwed and screwed and screwed onto it, being please stay, and then it stayed. And each time I did get a little happier as it flew a little more and a little bit more. But yeah.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you.